Extra part: Nina's story. Nina was left at the orphanage before she could form any memories. Because she was pretty, she was often picked on by the other children at the orphanage. The year she turned 4, she was adopted. It wasn't until she arrived at her adoptive parents' home that she realized just how wealthy they were. But there was one flaw in this perfection: they already had a daughter. Not being the only one meant she faced the very real risk of being abandoned again. So, when Nina first arrived at the Montgomery household, she pulled out all the stops to win over Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery. Although she didn't care for her perpetually frail younger sister, she pretended to adore her to please her adoptive parents. And so, she stayed with the Montgomery family, becoming a part of it. Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery were kind-hearted people. They treated their adopted daughter exactly the same as their biological daughter, showing no favoritism. Her younger sister Sophia was in poor health and couldn't participate in many physical activities. To spite her sister, Nina deliberately acted lively and energetic, playing with whatever Sophia enjoyed. She had hoped to provoke Sophia's jealousy, hoping Sophia would confront her. A well-behaved, obedient, and healthy daughter versus a sickly, weak, yet vicious and malicious one. Who would be more beloved? The answer was obvious, wasn't it? Unfortunately, Sophia didn't take the bait. Nina gradually lost interest. With the Montgomery family as a stepping stone, marrying into wealth wouldn't be difficult if she could make herself more outstanding. But Nina never gave up searching for her biological parents. Initially, she had planned to go after Leo, the only son of her adoptive parents. Besides, after spending so much time together, she had developed some feelings for him. Yet, Leo had no such thoughts about her, simply treating her as a younger sister. This remained a lingering regret in Nina's heart until she met Sebastian. That man seemed to have an innate appeal to her. However, having learned from her experience with Leo, Nina mastered the art of playing hard to get. Her interactions with Sebastian stirred jealousy in Diana, the heiress of the Vanderlyn family. Knowing the Montgomery family was no match for the Vanderlyn family, Nina did her best to avoid direct confrontation. That was until she discovered she was actually the heiress of the biological family. At the banquet, Nina deliberately provoked Diana. Nina's family was already looking into her background, and they would soon be reunited. What's more, she had already confirmed her relationship with Sebastian. So, Nina no longer held back against Diana. Instead, she turned the tables and tarnished Diana's reputation. But she still underestimated the Vanderlyn family's influence. She never expected the Montgomery family to go bankrupt over this, nor did she foresee her adoptive parents taking their own lives. Between staying with the Montgomery family, facing overwhelming debts alongside Leo and Sophia, and returning to her family as their young mistress, even a fool would know which choice to make. Thus, Nina eagerly returned to her family. To avoid any potential criticism, she transferred $500,000 to Leo, claiming it was repayment for her adoptive parents' upbringing. To her surprise, Leo actually accepted it. Nina thought Leo must be desperate for money to accept even $500,000. In the past, would he have even glanced at such an amount? But Nina never expected that Sophia, who had always been quiet and almost invisible, would suddenly change completely. Not only did she become sharp-tongued, but she also constantly gave Nina a hard time. Before this, Nina's life had always been smooth sailing. But ever since Sophia shed her former fragility, nothing seemed to go right for Nina. Nina felt that she and Sophia were simply incompatible. On the day of her birthday celebration, Nina's family was set to announce her engagement to Sebastian. But before the announcement could be made, the video on the big screen switched to footage of her scheming against Diana. Nina was utterly humiliated and nearly detained. In the end, Nina's family and Sebastian stepped in together to resolve the matter. But Nina never imagined this was just the beginning. After that, nothing went smoothly for her. The truth about her role in the Montgomery family's bankruptcy came to light, and the carefully crafted image she had built instantly crumbled. To avenge her, Sebastian kidnapped Sophia. But she never expected Sebastian would end up in trouble. When Nina heard about Sebastian's arrest, she felt like her world had collapsed. Sebastian is facing charges of kidnapping and attempted murder. Additionally, he is reportedly connected to several older cases. He will likely end up in prison. The family has arranged a new match for you. When would you like to meet him? Sebastian's father had an illegitimate son outside of marriage. With Sebastian imprisoned, the illegitimate son naturally took over. By the time Sebastian got out, what would be left for him at the Ashford Group? So, Nina reluctantly agreed to meet the match. But she never expected to be so unlucky. Her meeting with the matchmaker was discovered by Sebastian. Nor did she expect Sebastian to be so ruthless. Even from behind bars, he could still send people to teach her a lesson. As Sebastian's men broke her legs, Nina couldn't help but wonder, if she hadn't competed with Sophia or used the Montgomery family as a stepping stone, would things have turned out differently? Probably. Because then, she would never have met Sebastian. In the hospital room, Nina lay on the bed, her eyes vacant. Since learning she would be left with a disability, no one from Nina's family had visited her except her mother. Even her mother only came to tell her that once she recovered, she would be sent abroad. Although Sebastian was imprisoned, the Ashford family remained. In the eyes of the Ashford family, she was the one responsible for Sebastian's imprisonment. So, the family she had painstakingly searched for all these years abandoned her without a second thought. Nina stared at Leo's number in her contacts. Her finger hovered over it a few times, but in the end, she didn't call. When she was in trouble before, Leo eagerly joined in kicking her while she was down. Because Leo believed she was responsible for the deaths of their adoptive parents. Nina didn't understand. Wasn't the Vanderlyn family the real culprit? If Leo didn't confront the Vanderlyn family, wasn't it because he was no match for them? In the end, it was simply because she was an easy target. Now, with her legs broken and abandoned by Nina's family, if Leo found out, he wouldn't help her. Instead, he'd probably join Sophia in mocking her. Nina couldn't help but reminisce about her time with the Montgomery family. Although Leo had no romantic feelings for her and saw her only as a sister, whenever he prepared gifts for Sophia or took her out, he always made sure to include Nina. And now, Nina closed her eyes, 2 clear tears sliding down her cheeks. It was all her own doing. The end.